Hello and welcome to yet another video from Napoleonic PC Wargamers using the JTS system to play out some battles by email. Now, Napoleon's Russian campaign a couple of days ago got the liquor paint that it deserves, so it's a good game. And if you're doing a Russian campaign, I suppose you've got to do Borodino. Absolutely massive game. Now, just to have a look at the new maps, we have a nice sort of zoomed out 3D. It's a major difference. Somehow I think it's a little bit better than Waterloo. It just looks fantastic. It was a little bit light, I thought, in the beginning, just a little bit summery, bright, so I've just toned it down a little bit. And if we zoom in, you probably can see as well, they've given a nice little option of sort of grass bases, a la miniature tabletop style. So I'm going to use them for my zoomed in mode, and I'm going to use the normal counters for my zoomed out mode. The only slight difference, if you've updated your game, is I tend to use different units for the 3D sprites. The ones that are with the game and the new ones, such as in Waterloo as well, I don't know why, I just don't like them. They're good, but I just prefer a few more units to be represented rather than the sort of one horse equals a regiment, three guys equals a battalion. I just like a little more variation with my units, so they will be a little bit different. If we have a little run through here, you can just see on the left is the old style game, and on the right is the vastly improved with the new maps. I think they do look really good. I'm going to use my own unit boxes. The unit on the side aren't mine, but everything else is. And as you can see, I think it's a vast improvement. I never really minded the old style graphics. A lot of people sort of slated them, but I never really minded. I thought they did the job. They were functional. You could play around with them. There was a lot of mods around and things like that. But you can see here, for example, there's a lot more detail in the redoubts, in Borodino and Chevronino and places like that. There you go, Chevronino redoubts. They look a lot better. They look a lot better. The trees look a lot more realistic. It just all round looks better, in my opinion. They're the old style units on the left as well, and they do a job. They're just not for me. You know, one or two horses equals a regiment. It's just not my cup of tea, but no biggie. Now I am playing the chap I played Eylau and Auerstadt against, and he wants to play a longer one, and this will not be, I warn you now, at the same rate as Auerstadt and probably Eylau. This will be a lot slower. It's 140 turns. However, the second day, we're starting sort of on the 5th of September, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I haven't decided whether I'm going to attack today or not. But the next day of the battle in game was pretty much just a movement day. They didn't really attack until the next day, until the 7th. So we'll see. I'm not going to show all movement again, similar to the last two playthroughs. It will just be anything worthwhile showing. So just in case you don't know, Borodino is 1812 campaign. Napoleon has been chasing the Russians throughout the summer, but they keep retreating further and further into Russia. And as they approach Moscow, Kutuzov, the Russian general, he decides to turn face and actually face them this time to make a stand around the village of Borodino. We've got two Russian armies. We've got who have we got? We've got Barclay de Tolly's up here somewhere with his first army, and Prince Bagration is in the south, or sort of my right flank, with his second army. Now they do have, and I'll go through all the sort of topography in a bit, very good, very well defended, dug in troops. And Napoleon on the day, this is why hindsight's good for battles like this, he basically just did a frontal assault on the full position. It wasn't Napoleon at his best. He ignored Davout, one of his marshals, to say we should make a flanking attack through the woods, so that's probably what I'm going to do at first glance, just thinking about it. Where to start with this? Well, I suppose the first thing to note, if I come up here, I've got a lot of units that are not on the field. They're still marching to the sound of the guns. They still haven't arrived. I've got a couple of divisions on the field, about Corps worth. They are going to do a little bit of groundwork. That we need to capture some key points, if you like, to get some space for my army for the next day when everybody arrives. It's going to be a pretty boring. The first couple of turns will be okay, but then there's going to be a bit of a lull. I'll just show you anything of note, and as I said, it is going to take a long time because I've got a Waterloo campaign starting, I've got another campaign on the go, and about 3 or 4 other games as well. So it is going to be long and drawn out. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is have a look where we are, where the Russians might be, and what I'm going to call key terrain, my key objectives that I've got to take. I'll just also have a quick look at the rules. I forgot about that, that we'll be playing with. Pretty much usual fare for the last two, because the new games have this no detached, or the new updates have this no detached melee. We're not going to play with that one just because I don't think my opponent gets the chain of command quite yet, and although he's going to be the Russians and play very defensive, or he's going to be on the defence, and plus one thing I don't like about it, I do like it in all respects apart from movement. If you were to move a unit without their leader and then subsequently move the leader straight away, they will remain detached until the next turn, which can mess things up for the sake of a mouse click, essentially. Now in my full house rules we take care of that anyway, and we say that a unit must have the relevant command if they're going to melee anyway. What else is I'm going to continue with this optional fire result and melee result switched off. I think that's a really good it's a really good rule to have. It makes things more erratic, a little bit more unexplained sometimes, more exciting. Route limiting I'm going to definitely have on for this one. That's to stop 15 units routing side by side if a skirmisher sneezes, for example. It seems to be very heavy-handed, and it has ruined 1 or 2 games with the new rule set. It just seems to be very heavy-handed, and strange things happen. It just stops people or numerous units from routing unnecessarily. Other than that, it's pretty much business as usual for the rules. So for the Borodino, I've sort of split it up into 3 sectors, if you like. The northern sector, the central sector where most of the stuff is, and then the southern sector is my right flank down by the woods and places like that. Now, I had to identify my objectives, and that's basically going to be the basis of my battle. I'm on the attack as the French. I'm trying to defeat the Russians entirely, but there are some large victory points in this game for them. I think 500 odd victory points for a lot of them. The first one then is where my units are starting, or a couple of divisions are starting, are Alexinki. I've got to take that village because there are a few Russians there, and it gives me that nice tree line cover for pressing on to the Great Russian Redoubt, possibly attack through the trees, give myself some cover, and it will help me bring some of my divisions down to help on attack on the Borodino Redoubt, which is my next objective, because I also have troops there. I think that's the 5th Division there. They need to take that redoubt that was put there to essentially delay the French, and that's exactly what it's going to do. But I do need this space to form up my whole army of about 130,000 with 600 guns by the time it gets here. Russians, they've got about 120,000 with 680, 700 guns, something like that. But as I said, they are well dug in. So it's the disparity of the 20,000 troops or 10,000 troops, I think it is, won't make a difference. Attacking forces will always lose, or always should lose more than defending force. I'm going to take the village of Borodino, so I'm going to send some troops up there to sort of scout it out and provide an overwatch until I can get numbers up there to attack it. That's because in this area up here, we can cross, but then it turns into a creek, and we can't cross anywhere around Borodino apart from a bridge, and there's a key bridge in Borodino. The Great Russian Redoubt, that is the centrepiece, the tough nut to crack. I'll show you later on that it is a nice wide open space, lots of cover and arcs of fire. It's going to be a tough nut to crack. We've got the Semenskoye Redoubt down here, and we also have the Bagration flèches, the arrows. Another 2 well dug in positions, and I think that's where I need to send somebody down through the woods south of Borodino and attack them from the flank. A frontal assault, whilst it may work, it will be very, very costly. So just having a look at those objectives in a little bit more detail. A day one objective, certainly in the evening, is going to be this Borodino redoubt. It's a tough nut to crack. As these redoubts always are, he will have some artillery in there. The approach isn't the easiest, but it needs to be taken. It needs to be held in order for us to have a bit of space when everybody arrives from elsewhere. I'm going to take the village of Borodino up on my left flank. Above it there is a lot of wide open space. I'll show you the northern sector in a second, but it's all that all-important bridge through Borodino. I suppose there's a little bit of symbology as well. It's the village where the battle is sort of named after. However, it is all about that bridge, to hold that bridge, to take that bridge in the first place, and have it as a point where I can get a lot of troops across in order to attack, hopefully, the Great Redoubt from the north. Speaking of which, look at the size of it. It's the Great Russian Redoubt. To the west of it, it is all open spaces, so even if I come out of that tree line there around the stream and go to scale the heights, it's all open. He will have artillery in there, good arcs of fire. I've got to hit it from more than one place at once, for sure. And the northern flank, possibly behind, but definitely the northern flank, maybe with a feint attack from the front. That's my thinking. The Semenskaya redoubt, and the actual village itself, that's going to be another tough nut to crack, just because if you're trying to take the flèches, this redoubt also provides sort of overarching covering fire for the flèches, and the flèches also do the same for the redoubt. So that's another one in pretty much in the centre, sort of centre right, that also needs to be taken, but it will be heavily defended. The Bagration flèches, the arrows then, they've got a nice position overlooking Borodino, so it doesn't matter if we even take Borodino, they're going to have probably the range. Russian guns have got some big old guns that they have a long range, so they can pepper us with their artillery as well. So we've got to take these flèches as well. So the first order of the day then is to get this attack on Borodino sorted out, so I can get this space for all my troops and my whole army arriving. So looking at it close in, you see the Russians have protected. They've got some skirmishes out, and who do I have here? I've got Montbron with his 2nd Reserve Cavalry Corps. I'm not going to use them because it is really terrible cavalry ground. I'm going to have to bring them across to sort of this side of the Kalachar River, up towards the tree line. It's a bit better going, and I don't have to cross marshes. So they're going to go over to the right, join these cuirassiers that are in the middle as well. There's some heavies there, and get my concentration in force with cavalry and descend on Borodino, hopefully if they're withdrawing from the north. And we've got Morand and his 1st Division. They are going to head south initially, one side of the river, set up some artillery overlooking Helsinki, and the other guys are going to go on the sort of east side of the river and join up eventually with the attack from the north on Borodino. Friant and his 2nd Division, they're going to do pretty much the same. They're going to head straight south, clearing up to the east of Helsinki, and then hopefully have a good jump-off point for the attack on Borodino. I may keep some guys back just in case, because up here to the northeast, that road up there is going to Borodino village itself. There we go, and that's their plan. And Bruyere and his light cavalry division, they are also going to go along that road to Borodino. For Borodino itself then, we've got Compan's 5th Division. And they've got some tough going to get to this redoubt. They've got to cross a river, go through some fields and marshes, but we do have some good cover along the forest. But even then, they have to still cross a river. So we're going to have to try and keep organised there. It's going to be a general advance. We've got some good ground just before the redoubt that we can get some cover, get everybody across, hopefully with a minimum of damage. It all depends what he's actually got there. And maybe use this tree line to mask our approach to a certain extent. Got to be careful of what he's got to the south of us. I can't see anything yet. He's only got some skirmishers out, but that's the plan. And then they're going to secure the village of Borodino itself, secure the road up to the river, and secure the high ground. And all this time, we've got to remember that the flèches, the Bagration flèches, may have covering fire with their artillery on us, so we may have to keep some troops out of the way. It all depends. We'll see what we get. The idea being that Friant and Montbron are going to come down from the north and join in this assault. So if we time it right, it will be, what's that, 3-division attack on Borodino and the Borodino redoubt, rather than just a full-scale frontal suicidal assault. So what I'm calling my northern sector, or my left flank, just to finish this off, we can see Helsinki down there where my troops are, sort of left centre, and we've got a big wide open space. Lovely cavalry ground, but he probably doesn't have many troops up there. However, Barclay de Tolly's up here with his first army in force, as is Kutuzov, as I remember. So we're going to have to get some scouts out there just to make sure. Like I say, I'm going to push some of these troops that are around Helsinki, the cavalry, forward to Borodino, just to get a bit of an overview of what I've got to face up there. Remember, my opponent, if you watch the other videos, he doesn't like to sit still. Even though he's in a defensive battle, he will move. Whether he's going to in this one, we have to wait and see. We've looked at the centre, so this is now my southern sector. I'm going to call southern sector around the woods, or my right flank to the south. We've got this old Smolensk road and old Moscow road, and I have identified the town in the centre there, Ovititsa, when I have a chance to try and secure that, because it provides nice space in the wood, and it gives me, or potentially, an avenue of approach and attack to the Borodino Fletchers. So it's a nice place to get. Now, I know for a fact that the Moscow militia are in these woods somewhere, and there's a lot of them. Not too worried about the quality of them, but Borodino is a lot more thinly spread down here than de Tolly up in the north. So Borodino and his second army are around here, but they are more thinly spread. Saying that, I don't have anybody on the field yet, although they will be arriving tomorrow. So for these initial encounters, I've got Freon and his 5th Division, and he's got some decent troops actually. Not too bad. Leger troops, Legers, some line troops. Okay, C quality. Okay, so we're not doing too bad, and they're not the best maybe, saying that. There are some good and some bad. The Guard aren't there. Who's up here for the Russians? Are they Guard? No, light, it says light, okay. We do have an awful lot of cavalry though. We've got the whole reserve cavalry corps, and I want to try and keep them together as much as possible. I might nab some of their artillery and not take it all towards Borodino. This is what I want to do with my cavalry. Send them along this road overlooking Borodino, up on this high ground, maybe protect them down here where they can provide a little bit of flank cover just in case he decides to get adventurous. If not, they're there ready for the next day, or they can come down here as well. So that's the approach that I was on about from Helsinki. Freon will come down the east side, and then Morbant will come down the west side, with both sort of divisions having a crack at Helsinki. Can't really see much at the Borodino redoubt. He has got some troops in there, only 100, but that will be a strong point to take. That will not be easy. So we're going to have to get some skirmishers out there and have a look. Cross this river, go through the fields, but then we do have this cover through the woods. That's nice, so that we can use that. And down here, and as I said, I may have a feint assault here. They'll be in position to. But I'm going to use them as very much the secondary force. Ideally, I'd like to have all these troops from the north descend on Borodino and then back it up with the 5th Division down here. So that's the plan. Going on from that, once we take Borodino and the redoubt, we've got all this wide open space overlooking the Borodino Fletchers. But we do have a lot of high ground that we can sight a lot of artillery, and even if the next day, so the 6th, the second day of the battle, is using up a lot of ammunition, using up a lot of ammunition to pepper them and weaken these defences, then I'm all for it. We could consider using the trees in the forest to mask our approach, but then we've got a river to cross. Once we cross the river, we've got high ground here. We've got to get up there. It's steep, and then it's pure open ground. What's that? 600-700 meters until the Great Redoubt. I guarantee you. Look at that, 500-point objectives. However, that will be full of artillery. Okay, he's only got militia guard in it. I always thought it was better troops than that. But my plan for that is to, when I have enough force, take Borodino, the village itself. Grab that bridge, because remember we can't cross anywhere else, and descend on the Great Redoubt from the north, probably through here. Again, it's still a little bit of a tricky manoeuvre, and then maybe protect that the flank with cavalry around Saturino up to the north. And then we've got the Bagration Fletchers, and then the Semenskoye Redoubt as well. Excuse me, so it's going to have to be a multi-phase, multi-pronged assault, where I have to keep him guessing all the time as to where the main advance is going to be. Could double bluff him and say, okay, you know, we're coming up from the north, however, we're also sending a lot of troops. You can't, it will be more difficult for him to cover one place at a time, or one direction at a time. There's that town of Utitsa, so there it is, and it offers that nice southerly approach to the Bagration Fletchers, 2 roads there, or 2 gaps in the woods, coupled with it's so dangerous with the frontal assault though, but it's an easier assault than, still not easy, but the Great Redoubt is very hard because it's so open. Here, you're only open for maybe 1 or 2 hexes, 3 hexes in places, so yeah, it's not going to be easy, nor that it's going to be hard because you're going to have that crossfire from the Semenskoye Redoubt. Utitsa, that's going to be key, so we're going to have to get through the woods when people arrive from Yelnya on the old Smolensk road, and they will, if we have a look at who's arriving when. 4:30 September the 5th, so we do have some troops coming, so they're coming in through that road. Polish division, where are they coming from? So we're getting a division, the Polish division are coming in through there, that's good. Polish line, so the Poles, probably Pontanowski coming through there, yeah, there he is there. Okay, so that's good, he's coming in the next sort of half hour, 45 minutes, something like that. So that's going to be their job then, is to head towards Utitsa and take that, secure it, and that's about it. That's all I can say really, apart from actually having a go. As I said, it's not going to be as quick as the other games. Well, I'm still impressed with these new maps, they do look fantastic. It's not going to be as quick as my other games, I do have a lot going on, back to work now as well. So there's going to be a lot more probably detail going into these rather than Aristad was just a quick playthrough. Probably turn by turn we'll have a look at it and we'll see what's what. Hopefully you enjoy it. What I'm going to do now is start getting who I have on the field into position. Once I get back to you, that'll be the end of turn 1. So that's everybody moved for that turn. Down on Borodino itself, I moved Compans and his 5th division. Just moved them across the river a little bit. It's a little bit hard to differentiate sometimes with these bases who's who. So I may revert back, I don't know yet, we'll see how we get on. I'm going to use a lot more skirmishes, I think, in this battle than I usually do. I'm not a massive, I'm not going to say fan, I just don't use them as much as some people that tend to just put out skirmishes everywhere that they can. I don't do that, I use them where it's needed. I think in this battle there's going to be an awful lot more of them. Surprisingly, my artillery, overlooking, it hasn't got the greatest line of sight. I thought it would have done, had some line of sight on the redoubt itself. It hasn't, it's sort of covering the approach, but we'll see. I've got some guys across the river. The guys that were up here on this high ground, I pulled them into the low ground just to give them a little bit of protection to cover what I'm trying to do until everyone's in position. Up in Alexinki, that's where most of the movement was. I started getting my cavalry going up towards Borodino up here. I have nabbed some of their horse artillery. I've got my heavies and my reserve cavalry also coming down. I'm going to hang some back just in case. Yeah, I mean, it's not the best cavalry ground here, but they'll get there without too much disruption. So I may bring some of this cavalry down with me as well. Slight change of plan already. Started crossing the river here. We've got some guns up here. Bring them forward a little bit more. And we managed to set up one battery of horse artillery here. So can we actually see anyone? We can. Who's he got there? 500 dragoons. He's got a regiment of dragoons. Now we're playing with the same limited house rules again. No more than 300 cavalry in a hex. Not allowed to attack with disrupted units. But I'm going to have a crack and the first shot with horse artillery. That's a help if I actually selected my own guns against his dragoons there. Okay, not a bad first shot. Our skirmishers did cross the river. That's what I mean. It's a little bit hard to differentiate, apart from the uniforms. Okay, so our skirmishers crossed. Now they were all split from these light troops at the start, these légers. When I clicked on the stacks, there was at least 2 formations of skirmishers. So, as I said, we'll probably be using them a lot more. Nothing to stop me, I suppose, actually bringing them back in. We'll start skirmishing around Helsinki. So, I think that's about all I can do for this turn. So, I'm going to cross the river all at the same time. Yeah, that's about all I can do. So Friant's bringing around his troops here to come around the back. And, yeah, so I'm going to send that off to him. And we'll see what we get.